Hi, and welcome to Licks and Tips for November of 2012. Gee, we're getting into Thanksgiving and then Christmas right around the corner. By the way, I have been working a lot on tabs, and I have a cohort in Knoxville, Tennessee, who has been helping me a lot with the actual final production of them. And we're trying to fill up the coffers a little bit with new things for you to learn and inexpensive. For somewhere between $4 and $8, you can buy a tab arrangement and get an audio file, a beautiful arrangement written out with all the chord positions, and also a set of performance notes telling you, kind of measure per measure some of the things to watch out for and tricky fingerings and so forth. So, anyway, among those, so far there are nine Christmas tabs. So there's some really cool things of different types up there that you might want to take a look at. Anyway, this time on Licks and Tips, I thought it would be kind of interesting to talk about your hands and your guitar neck and how the two should commingle. Basically, different people have different ages and sexes and so forth. The people can have anything from little tiny skinny fingers to great big hands that look like a stalk of bananas, and trying to get all of those hands to fit on one guitar neck is nearly impossible. Then to make it worse, guitar necks themselves vary. They can be anywhere from just barely over 1.5 inches to actually 2 inches wide, and all those different variations will fit or not fit different people. And oddly, it turns out that larger guitars generally have skinny necks, and smaller guitars generally have big necks. And then you have nylon strings and steel strings and the shapes of necks and nut spacing and all these things to consider. And it could seem a little overwhelming and difficult to figure out what guitar to buy and so forth. I've actually had a number of students who have shown up on my doorstep that you can give them a piece of tab and everything, and they can physically do the thing and memorize the part and play it, but it sounds terrible. Half the notes are muted and dead and dull and buzzes and all that kind of stuff. And when you look at them, you can see that the whole problem is that they've got a neck that's too skinny for having slightly larger hands. And that sort of thing where you put down a finger on a string and the edges of the finger touch both of the adjacent strings. You have to have just enough clearance to get that to work. Now, don't get me wrong, if you play lead guitar, let's say on a Telecaster or something like that, the strings can be pretty skinny because you're only playing one string at a time, and you don't care if your fingers bump other strings. And even a lot of rhythm guitar players play an acoustic rhythm and so forth with a big Martin Dreadnought or something like that. When you strum a chord, if one note is muted, it goes pretty unnoticed because there's a lot of other strings ringing. But especially like me, where you go into the fingerstyle guitar world, now all of a sudden, even just arpeggios, that sort of thing. You don't want to go, you don't want all those sounds coming through there. So you have to have a certain amount of string spacing. Now, in my case, I would say, about average sized hands. They're not big, they're not little, they're not fat, they're not skinny. They're just kind of right in the middle. And for me, this 1 3/4 neck width at the nut seems to be about right, and it is kind of the standard for a lot of guitars. But as I said, it actually varies, and there seems to be an odd plot against fingerstyle players playing larger guitars. When you get into a jumbo guitar like this, or a dreadnought or whatever, you'll find that they have skinnier necks. I think this is a 1 11/16. It's pretty skinny. Now, I can just barely play fingerstyle accurately on this guitar. I can play chords and melody fine, but when I'm doing fingerstyle solos where I'm keeping a bass line going one way and a melody going the other and a lot of that, it's just a little bit on the tough side to get that to happen. Now, you go the other direction, where maybe you're a classical player and you play a nylon string guitar. Oops, I'm picking up the wrong one. On a nylon string guitar, the typical nut width is 2 inches. Lots of room. In my case, I don't just play classical guitar. In classical guitar playing, the types of chords that you play and the way the music's written and all that, you don't have to play a lot of real complex chordal harmonies, and they've all been figured out to work on a classical guitar. So it's okay. But in my case, I'll play like a C, what is that? A C 13 flat 9 or something. Some chord like that. I'm getting two notes with my thumb because I've got all four fingers tied up and I still need two notes. Now with a 2-inch neck, that's a little rough. So this guitar, which was built for me by Paul McGill in Nashville, this thing is it's got a 1 7/8 in it, and that works out just right for me. But it may not for the next person. A typical classical person probably wouldn't like it. So if you go to the larger guitars, like the jumbo guitars, they have skinny necks. The smaller guitars, like this one here, this is a replica of a Martin 0018, and this guitar has a 1 13/16 neck. So where the standard is kind of 1 3/4, this one is a little over. The Gretsch that I had there a minute ago is a little under. And there's all these variances and stuff. This is also a 12 fret neck. The body meets at the 12th fret, where most guitars nowadays meet at the 14th fret to give you a little bit more room for reach. Well, as you can see, oh, by the way, this guitar has got a V-shaped neck in the back, and having that meatier neck makes it feel as if it's bigger as well. Where my custom Bertoncini here has, if you can see it, it has a real skinny neck. This way, and it's the same width from one end to the other. So it's wide this way, but the actual thickness of it is fairly thin. So what's comfortable to one person isn't necessarily to another. So you have to kind of look at your hand size, look at the style of music you're going to play, and then look at the widths of guitar necks out there. And here's another interesting thing. Sometimes you'll have a full 1 3/4 nut like this, but the grooves in the nut are actually spaced a little closer together. So there's like a full 1/8 of an inch worth of space on both the 6th and the 1st string side, and then they're all scrunched together. Well, you just as well be playing a skinny neck as that. In fact, a lot of guitars, the first thing I do if I buy one or something, I'll take that nut out and get a new bone blank and cut a new one the width that I want it to be. I cut the 6th-string side actually kind of dangerously close to the edge, and the 1st-string side just a little bit further away so that I've got a little room for, so I don't roll off the edge with that one. But having that 6th-string where all I got to do is just barely touch it with my thumb to get a fretted note, I like that effect. So anyway, it's my opinion that just about everybody ought to have about a 1 3/4 neck or bigger. When they get smaller than that, they get, especially for fingerstyle players, that gets just a little bit dangerous. So anyway, you've got 1 11/16, 1 3/4, 1 13/16, and then even 1 7/8 and 2 inches. So there's quite a few neck sizes. And always remember that usually the smaller guitars have the wider necks, the bigger guitars have the narrower necks. So if you're playing fingerstyle, you probably want to stay away from bigger guitars unless you get a custom neck built. And quite a few companies actually will build you or even have stock, but that you just have to order them, guitars that have, larger guitars that have wider necks and so forth. So these are all things to look into. But the point of it is whatever the style of playing is and whatever kind of guitar you get and your hands, you got to match all that up so that you get something that resembles clear, clean notes from your instrument. So anyway, I hope that little dissertation has helped you a little bit. If you're in search of a guitar, or maybe already have a guitar and you're wondering why you can't get the notes to come out clear, it might just be the neck width of your guitar and the size of your hands. I actually have that happen quite often with students who come in that have little skinny necked larger guitars and big hands, and they're just having a heck of a time getting the notes to come out clear. So anyway, that may be the whole problem. It might be time to look for another one. So anyway, I hope that helps, and in the meanwhile, have a great holiday season, great Christmas and so forth, and we'll see you sometime in the New Year's and see what else is new. See ya.